Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Academia of Faith. I'm your host, Chelsea Grow, and today we're going to dive into Season 8, Episode 2. So let's get ready to go, Faith Ultra. So Season 8, Episode 2 starts off with a bang, y'all. We've got Stain, okay, the hero killer. He's coming in, but he ain't killing no heroes. He's actually coming for All For One, who's like the big villain, right? Now, he's coming in. Now, All Might is beat up, y'all. He is jacked up from the rudder to the tuda. But when I tell you, All Might is still kicking somehow, some way. But this, having Stain fly in, right, y'all, this is just to give All Might a little bit of stamina. Now, All Might and Stain come to attack All For One. And, you know, when I tell you, you think that it's about to be over. You're like, oh, yeah, All For One, you about to get it. And then all of a sudden, boom. So he expels all the blood out of his body, which means that now that quirk can no longer be used. So you're sitting here like, oh, no, not again. Like, I thought that y'all was finally going to, see a win. But, they got some more episodes, so they can't end it like that. Anyway, so now we're going to go back. Stain is now wrapped up in All For One's, vices. And then All For One basically throws Stain through 7-Eleven buildings. I'm like, dang, All For One, I know you a character, a cartoon, but you strong. Okay, anyway. So Stain is now lying down. He is physically incapacitated, you can tell from the attack. And All For One, basically, and All Might's trying to come and help Stain. And this is the thing, even though All Might doesn't have any powers, his support things are done, he's still going. And he's like, no, I'm going to try to help Stain do something, right? And so then he gets over there, and next thing you know, boom, All For One kills Stain, and so that's the end of him. So then after All For One kills Stain, he turns around and he tries to kill All Might. Now you're sitting here like, wow, All Might's got nothing left, this is it. But at the last second, his shield, Hercules, okay? And Hercules was his main shield from his support suit. Hercules comes through. After thinking that he'd been destroyed, Hercules comes through and she gives one last shield, y'all. And this is a life-saving shield for All Might. So then, she says, live, All Might, live, And so then, after, All Might is now on the ground. Now he can't use his legs anymore. So he's paralyzed from the waist down from the attack. He also has no more support items, but he's sitting here and he crawls. I can't run, then walk. I can't walk, then crawl, baby. You better get on them elbows and do what you got to do. And so that's what All Might is doing. He's still not giving up. He's still pushing through. So now, All For One is over here looking around and he's like, okay, I'm about to go and, mess Midoriya up. I'm about to go mess the heroes up some more and everything like that. But then All Might is like, no, come at me. And here's the thing about villains. Villains always got an ego that you can play with, okay? So All For One said, oh, you want to play? Okay, so he picks him up and he's carrying All Might through the air over to where Midoriya and the rest of the heroes are. Now, this is super... From the initial look, this seems super embarrassing for All Might because this is once the most powerful hero, but this is the beautiful thing about it. All Might is crazy, okay? And crazy in the right way. See, you gotta believe in your mission so bad. It looks like nothing's gonna work and you still gotta believe. So he tries to hit him with a last ditch effort. He tries to kill both of them at the same time using some kind of support item. But then, All For One, boom, he takes that away as an option. Now we fast forward and you're thinking, oh man, what's All Might going to do? Nope, you think it's over. It's not, because now here comes all these fighter jets. Now these fighter jets, they appear in an earlier episode, which I will highlight in my flashback episode. Anyway, these fighter jets come and they're about to send their laser beams to All For One, and boom, he slices and dices them. I said, dang, they didn't even stand a chance. They couldn't even get nothing off. So, as I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking, my goodness, they are exhausted. This has got to be so frustrating for the heroes because Midoriya is trying to keep, Shigaraki intact, because if he gets loose, that's decay everywhere. And then, he's over here trying to also save All Might. So that he's conflicted, right? And this is the thing. Sometimes, distractions will come up. And even if it's a distraction where I should go to that distraction, a good one, sometimes you got to stay focused on your mission until you can find a way to help somebody else, because you can't help nobody else till you help yourself, right? So Midoriya is fighting, you know what I'm saying? And finally, he just goes to save All Might, you know what I'm saying? But all the shields are down now, and everything is now, Shigaraki has free reign, right? Or so we think. So the episode kind of ends kind of abruptly, but right before it does, we see, now y'all remember when I brought up Bakugo, right? Bakugo, he's got the explosions that come out his hands. Now he was fighting like hard, but he got beat up, you know what I'm saying? But he was down, and we thought he was down. So now you see him, Midoriya is out there trying to save All Might. Bakugo stands up and he is like walking. Well, anybody who saw the previous episodes, and I'll again tune in on Thursday for my flashback episodes, y'all. I'm gonna get y'all all caught up. But Bakugo stands up and he just starts walking towards Shigaraki. He's got no fear. When I tell you, it's like, this is about to be where the story turns. So I, went ahead and I watched the next week preview, and they break it down that, Bakugo, Midoriya, like, y'all, because this whole episode, there's not really any relief for the heroes. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of relief, but there's not enough to where you're like, oh man, they're winning, because it seems like everything that the heroes and anybody helping the heroes tries to do, it gets struck down by All for One, right? And of course, that happens in life sometimes, right? You're like, oh man, like nothing's working out. But when I tell you, things are about to turn around in a mighty way. So y'all, tune in next Tuesday when I specifically talk about season 8, episode 3. I cannot wait. Okay. It's called, The Last Boss. Yo, it's going to be so good. Okay. Okay, guys. So now it's time to get into the scriptural references. Okay. So the first scripture we're going to start with is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 16. And it says, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. But the wicked stumble when calamity strikes," right? See, here's the thing. Everything seems to be going good for All for One, but y'all just wait, because I have a gut feeling that things are going to flip really hard, okay? The thing about it is, All Might keeps getting knocked down. I mean, Stain comes to help him, and like that gives him a little bit of hope. But then Stain gets taken out. He tries. Hercules comes and shields him, but then Hercules gets taken out. I mean, All Might is going. Like, and you're like, man, this guy should just tap out. Even when he finds out that he's paralyzed and he can't use any support items, he is still going. And this is the beautiful thing about it, is that it doesn't matter how many times you fall. Like with God, his grace and his mercy is sufficient for all of us. So when he falls, it's like All Might's like, nah, I'm gonna keep going, and even if I gotta crawl. And that's the testimony. The testimony is that not giving up, because the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the one who endured to the end. I will look up that scripture because I know that's in the Bible. But anyway, so yeah, like, the evil guys may be running, but that's because nothing has gone really wrong yet. Like, nothing majorly wrong. But when calamity is a big mess, when that strikes, evil has no choice but to bow down. The next scripture reference that I'm going to talk about is John chapter 15, verse 2. Okay. So this scripture says, "He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." Okay. So here's the thing about this. I look at the pruning as in the hero situation, right? Because, God keeps like stripping away their resources, like the fighter jets, Stain, the support system for the UA, their coffin in the sky that they made for Shigaraki, like that's starting to crumble. Like, it seems like everything is falling away, right? And it seems like the only people that are bearing fruit are the evil ones, right? But here's the kicker, right? Anytime in life, God puts you in a position where he's stripping things away, it's pruning, right? Because pruning is like, it's a process that's a very ugly process. It's about like getting rid of things that are gonna like not stop you from bearing fruit, or stop you from being successful, stop you from thriving, from evolving. And so that's what's happening in this episode, right? Everything the heroes put up keeps getting stripped away, but it's so that a beautiful fruit, which I know is coming soon, can be shown. So yeah, y'all. So the next scripture reference is going to be from 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 7 through 8. Now, this says, "When Elijah was exhausted and wanted to give up, an angel brought him food and water, saying, 'Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you.' Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and nights unto Horeb, the Mount of God." Okay, so a little backstory about this. Elijah was a prophet, a powerful prophet. Like, God loved Elijah so much, he didn't even die. God said, you just gonna go, come on right up to heaven. Okay, so that was Elijah. Anyway, Elijah at this moment, he is basically depressed and feeling suicidal, because he feels like, his journey is just so long and tiring, and he's going through so much at this point in his life. And, God sends an angel down to him to just give him some food and some water and some rest, and then that little bit of peace, it was able to keep him pushing for another like 40 days. So here's the thing. Initially when you look at Stain getting killed in spite of trying to help All Might, right? You may think, oh, that was a waste of time. But actually, Stain sacrificing himself for All Might gave All Might enough strength to keep going, right? Just, and this is the thing, like, in life, when these things come up, when you feel like weighed down and everything feels heavy, that is when God will send you help to keep going. Because sometimes the grace God sends you, it's not to get you out of the situation, but it's to give you enough strength to keep going. Now, eventually you will get out of the situation as long as you don't give up and keep your faith. But sometimes God knows that we're in these human bodies having these human experiences. So he'll send what you need. And even though you may not get a W from the help he sends, you may just get a W long enough to keep pushing forward. Okay, so this next Bible verse is from 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 21 through 22, okay? So it says, "It was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone from his house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people of Israel. I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes. But by these slave girls you spoke of, I will be held in honor." So, little backstory. David, remember David, the one who slang Goliath with the rock? Okay, slang. So David, is now king of Israel, okay? And so this is happening during his reign. So his wife, Michal, she was a hater, okay? But anyway, she was looking out the window because David had brought back the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant had been stolen in battle. And so David getting it and bringing it back, was beautiful because the Ark of the Covenant was like, it was basically something that they would use to like glorify God and everything like that. And so the fact that it was taken, and brought back by David was a huge accomplishment. So David was so happy because they had tried to bring it back before to no avail. But once it was finally back in Israel, David was so excited he couldn't help but dance and rejoice and celebrate. So right before this scripture, Michal is kind of like being judgmental to him. And he's basically saying like, look, girl, I will be embarrassed for the Lord. I may look undignified. It may seem to other people that I'm being humiliated, but it doesn't matter because to the people who really see what's happening, to the people that are righteous, to the people who love the Lord as much as I do, they will see me and they'll honor what I'm doing. They may even join in, really. And so I said all that to say there's a scene where All Might is getting carried, back by All For One in front of everybody, in front of all the UA students. And this is once again, this is kind of humiliating for All Might. So you would sit there and think, oh my gosh, man, why is he going through this, right? But see, All Might doesn't care about being embarrassed. Even when he's crawling on the ground towards All For One, being physically incapacitated, being mentally and spiritually drained, that to others may be embarrassing. Even All For One's making fun of him, like, oh, look at you, what I'm saying, trying to fight, and da-da-da. And like, there's times when All Might tries to do what he can, and then All For One shuts those down. So again, it's like, it seems like humiliation after humiliation after humiliation. But see, when you're doing something for the good of the Lord, when you're doing something that's on path to your purpose, on path to your dreams, on path to your goals, when you're doing that, you have to be willing to be embarrassed. You have to be willing to let people look at you and be like, oh, that's dumb. That's never going to happen. You're stupid. Like, whatever. You got to be willing to do that. And you have to trust that in the right time that God is going to deliver you and that your efforts won't be in vain. Okay, so the last scripture reference I'm going to give you guys is from John chapter 11, verses 43 through 44. Now, these say, when he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped in strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Okay, so this more ties into like the end of the episode and then the preview highlights into episode 3, because here's the thing. Lazarus, for those of you who don't know, Lazarus was a friend of Jesus. He died and Jesus found out 4 days later, but Jesus raised him from the dead, okay? Now, here's the thing about it is, from a spiritual standpoint, and even if you want to tie it into My Hero Academia, their situation looks dead. The hero situation looks dead. It looks like no matter what they've done, there's nothing that they can do. The situation looks like it cannot be resurrected or rectified or, refreshed like that. It looks like it's over. But This is the thing. Like, it's always when your situation looks dead that, if anybody can revive it, is Jesus. Whoo! Okay, for real. Like, the Lord does not play. Like, if like anything that God says to come to fruition will come to fruition. Okay, so if God said, okay, like you're gonna be an accountant, right? But you keep having all these roadblocks. Ain't no student loans coming through. All this stuff. When I tell you, God will call up a rock to get to go work and get you some money if He has to. So somehow, some way, it'll come through. And that brings me into my personal testimonials. So the takeaway from this episode, how it mirrors my own life. Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. About 2 years ago, I felt like in comedy, I felt like things were flat for me. I felt like I had been trying to get in certain clubs. I've been trying to make certain motion, and I felt like I just kept hitting a wall and it just wasn't working out for me, right? But when I tell y'all, I kept showing up, and I kept showing up to open mics. I kept showing up to these auditions. And then one day, and I'll tell this story. The Hollywood Improv, my favorite comedy club in Los Angeles. Love this club. Shout out to Rita Piazza, the booker there. Rita is a booker who's literally known me since I started doing stand-up comedy. She believed in me when a lot of other people didn't. One of the things about Rita is she always spoke life into me. You know what I'm saying? And she believed in me. So when I was walking with a cane still, and this was back in 2020, I went and I did an audition at the Improv. At that point, Rita said, okay, we're going to start giving you all these spots and all that. But then what happened just a couple months later? COVID, okay? So things were shut down, and the Improv was shut down for basically 2 years. So it wasn't until 2022 when I had to audition again, and I did, and she said, okay, well, we'll give you some late night spots, and we'll have you do this and do that. So that year, I basically was like paying my dues, and then finally in 2023, I did another set at another audition. And here's the thing, I humbled myself and I kept showing up to these auditions over and over again. Even though I wasn't getting like exactly what I wanted, I was getting some stage time, but I wanted to be in development at that club. Being in development at a comedy club, at least here in Los Angeles, essentially means that you call in your availability every week to these clubs, and then they will give you spots, as they're available and so on, and also based on your performance and so on and so forth. So it was 2023 that Rita finally said, you know what, Chelsea, you're ready to be in development. And I must have cried my eyes out, because at that point, I've been doing stand-up comedy for 11 years. And to be in development at the world famous Hollywood Improv was such a blessing, and I was so grateful for that opportunity. So, my situation looked kind of dead for a while. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like I just couldn't break through that barrier. And since then, I've gone on to host plenty of shows in the main room. I've performed on shows throughout that club, and I've gone on to now be in development at other clubs. I'm in development now at the Comedy Store, another club that situation seemed dead. It seemed like every time I would audition, because the Comedy Store specifically has had 4 bookers in the last 12 years. And so, I felt like every booker that I ran through, I just felt like I just kept getting roadblock. I felt like no matter how funny I was, how good I was, I just kept getting roadblock. But eventually, y'all, as of August of this year, I'm in development now, and that is a situation that a lot of people told me to give up on. People were like, Chelsea, forget about the Comedy Store. It's really hard. Forget about the Improv. It's really hard to get in at these clubs. And I didn't give up, y'all. I kept going. So, to round out this episode, I just want to say, y'all, keep pushing. God can turn your situation around in an instant, in a second, in a millisecond. And I know that some people are going through some things right now. Maybe you're going through something in your relationship or a friendship or your finances or your job, or maybe you're just battling depression right now. But I want to tell you that don't tap out, okay? Because let God gag you, okay? Because when I tell you these last 2 years, when it comes to stand-up comedy, I've gotten more yeses than I've gotten no's. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that I didn't give up. So you guys, thank you for tuning into this episode of Academia of Faith. This is episode 3 of Academia of Faith, and episode 4 will be dropping on Thursday. That's going to be my nostalgic flashback episode. And make sure you guys watch My Hero Academia. Season 8 is now streaming on Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Crunchyroll. You can check it out every Saturday. And so, guys, check your local listings, by the way. And thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.